Mr. Maponya.
Good morning, Madam Chair, the Commissioner, and also my colleagues. Flowing from yesterday's cross-examination, today we are resuming with such. Lined up today, Madam Chair, is Mrs. Skhosana, as well as Mr. Munacheng, as well as Ernest Mbalo. So,
Are you going to call them in that order?
not at all, Commissioner. We are, as agreed upon between the parties, we are going to call upon firstly Mrs. Skhosana, then we are going to call upon Ernest Mbanu, and then finally we are going to call upon Mr. Munacheng. So with leave of the commission, may we call our first witness?
Yes. You are aware of the ruling which I made when I granted leave to cross-examine.
Indeed so.
The time limits which I gave for specific witnesses.
Indeed so.
That Ms. Skhosana is to be cross-examined within 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Mr. Mbanu also to be cross-examined within 30 minutes. And Mr. Munacheng to be cross-examined within an hour.
Indeed so, Chair.
Yes, I'll take a dim view if those time limits are not adhered to.
I will do my best to adhere to those. So with leave of the commission, may we call upon Ms. Skhosana.
Yes, Advocate Muloto.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Madam Commissioner. Ms. Spindile Skhosana, do you have any objection to taking an oath?
No objection.
In that case, do you then swear that the evidence that you are going to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
The witness has been sworn in.
Thank you, Advocate Muloto. Advocate Maponya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Ms. Skhosana.
Good morning.
Are you aware of the proceedings today that are unfolding?
Yes, I am aware.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skhosana, are you aware that the city of Johannesburg owned Usindiso building?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question?
Are you aware that the city of Johannesburg owned or is owning the Usindiso building?
No, I'm not aware.
If that is true, that the city of Johannesburg owned or is owning the Usindiso building, am I right to assume that the actual client, in a sense of payment of rates and levies in terms of the bylaws, the city of Johannesburg is the actual customer and not the residents of Usindiso?
The actual customer is the customer that is indicated on the system according to our billing system. So according to our billing system, the customer is Usindiso Ministries.
So are you saying that, be that as it may, that in an assumption that the city of Johannesburg is owning the building, there might be a separate customer that is responsible for payments of rates and taxes in that building?
Yes, it is possible. I am not aware as to what were the agreements between the city of Johannesburg, as you indicate, them owning the building, as well the agreement between them and Usindiso Ministry, who is the account holder on the billing system.
So how does one Apologies, Chair, I missed the
Yes,
interpretation.
you may proceed. Your surname again, ma'am?
Zungu.
Zungu, yes, Ms. Zungu, you may proceed to interpret.
Yes. Lamuhla ke fakazi nguSiphindile Sikhosana ufungisiwe ngaphambi kokuba kuqale kubutwa noma imibuto phenyo lekhona. Ummeli ke uyambuta umbuto wekuqala kwekuthi ingabe uyatini kwekuthi lesakhiwo seUsindiso ngabe sakhiwo lekusakhiwo selidolobha laseJozi. Uyaphendula ke make Sikhosana uthi cha akakwati lokho. Umuntu olandzelako ummeli uyambuta ukuthi uma ngabe lesakhiwo vele kusakhiwo sasedolobha laseJozi ingabe kuyaye kube kwekuthi ngulaba basedolobha ngileli dolobha laseJozi noma kuba ngilaba labalirentako noma labalicashile lebhilidi lekuba bantfu laphocelelwe ukuthi kube ngibo lababhadala timali noma tindleko letiyaye tibe khona mayelana nalolu bhilidi leto. Uyaphendula ke make Sikhosana kwekuthi bona etincwadzini tabo noma kuma record abo kubhalwe ukuthi lela bhilidi lela bamvule kumele babhadale tindleko noma ngabe ngetani ngu-Usindiso Ministry lokusho ukuthi lela bhilidi lela noma belilaseJozi ketha belicashwe yu-Usindiso Ministry ngekwati kwabo. Umbuto ke lo landzelako ke so uyabuta ummeli wekuthi ingabe unalo yini lwati lokuthi njengoba kuvumelana tsite emkhatsisini welidolobha kanye nalo Usindiso kwekuthi ngubaphi kuyenteka yini ngasikhatsi bamvula abahlalako ebhilidini pheceleti bahlali kube ngibo laba bese baba nesidzingo sekuthi babhadale tindleko. Wachaza ke make kwekuthi kuya ngevumelana kwabo yena akanaso isiciniseko lesitsite.
You are aware that the building, whether it was under the Usindiso Ministries or the City of Johannesburg, was owing an amount of 4.3 million, right?
Yes, that's correct, I'm aware.
So upon that obviously there is an amount owing by the building, whether flowing from anywhere else. So I would assume that there was a demand made in terms of payments of those levies, am I right?
That's correct.
So can you tell the commission as to where was or to whom the demand was directed to?
As I explained in my testimony the last time, that the credit control process is a City of Johannesburg process, but as Johannesburg Water, we come in when we have to effect the disconnection on the ground. And so that process, I wouldn't have information on as to where it was sent, because it is not being done within Joburg Water itself. It is being done at the City of Johannesburg under the revenue shared services.
Uyachubeka ke ummeli uyambuta make kwekuthi uyatini kwekuthi lesakhiwo lesiya besikweleta imali lenganga 4.3 million. Uthi make yebo uyakwati lokho. Uyasho ke futhi ummeli kwekuthi kukhona letinye imali lebedi kweletwa ngilesakhiwo lesi. Futhi kwafika esigabeni sekwekuthi kube nekudimanda noma kuphoqa kwekuthi babaphoqelele ukuthi babhadalele letimali. Ingabe uyatini kwekuthi baphoqelela lidolobha laseJozi noma baphoqelela le Usindiso Ministry. Uthi ke make njengoba i-credit control noma singathi indlela labayisebenzisako yekukoleka timali ngilesetshenziswa la edolobheni laseJozi. Kepha ke bona njenga Johannesburg Water bayaye bese bayangenelela uma ngabe labo bamvule kumele babhadale leto timali temandi bangakatibhadali bese ke bona sebenta lokuthite mhlambe kuyacima noma kuyavala. So akati kahle kahle ukuthi le demand noma lokuphocelelwa bekubhekiselwe kubaphi.
Do you think it's consistent that the City of Johannesburg owns a building that is owing those sums of money, but still effects a demand upon the residents to say that you are owing such and such an amount of money? Isn't that the responsibility of the City of Johannesburg to regulate and control the collection of levies?
With regards to that, as I indicated, that on the system, the account holder is Usindiso Ministries. So I wouldn't be able to respond in terms of the city of Johannesburg demanding payment upon a building that is, that it owns itself, or sending a demand to the residents. According to my knowledge, the account holder is Usindiso Ministries, and my expectation would be that the demand is being sent to the account holder, not to the residents.
Uyambuto landzelako uyachubeka ummeli uyabuta ukuthi kungendeka yini ukuthi njengoba lesakhiwo kusakhiwo sedolobha laseJozi phindze idolobha laseJozi kube ngilo leliphocelela ukuthi lesakhiwo lesi sibhadale letimali leti noma letindleko leti. Uyaphendvula ke make sikhosana uthi angeke sekakhona ukukhipha imphendvulo lecondzile ngesizatfu sekuthi emabhukwini abo kubhalwe ukuthi lesakhiwo lesi tindleko takhona kufuna tibhadalwe Usindiso Ministry. So akanaso isiqiniseko sekuthi vele bangaya idolobha laseJozi lingaba ngilo lekumele libaphocelele noma lingabaphocelela ukuthi babhadale letimali.
Thank you for that. Would you tell the Commission as to what considerations have been taken in terms of the termination of the water supply for non-payment?
I'm not too sure what you're referring to when you're saying consideration, if you can clarify for me.
I'm asking in terms of the overall consideration, in terms of the termination of what. Obviously, for example, if, for example, I'm not paying and I own a Saipono building, there must be consideration as to, for example, children living there, whether there's disabled, the purpose of that building, what is the building used for. So kindly just clarify the considerations that are taking place in your mandate in terms of the termination of that water supply.
In my mandate in terms of disconnecting for water, I indicated that we firstly restrict water. We do not cut off the water supply completely, but upon illegal connections that has been done on the water connection, then a complete shutdown of water then is done on the water connection. And so with regards to those considerations, unfortunately, that is not within the ambit of my responsibilities. Whilst there may be policies within the city, but those are within the city of Johannesburg, and my responsibility goes as far as effecting the credit control. And so unfortunately, I will not be able to indicate as to what is the city's position with regards to that.
Uqhubekile ke ummeli wambuta ukuthi ngasikhathi kuyabe khona tingqinamba leti bakhona leti baholela ekuthenini bangamani nje bavale noma bacishe emanti babuke isimo ukuthi mhlawumbe kulesakhiwo kunebamfana noma kunebamfu labachwalile bayaye bavele bayaye bakubuke yini lokho ngaphambi kokuba bavale lawo manti. Uyachaza ke make ukuthi bona abamani nje bavele bavale emanti noma bawacime ekucaleni bayaye bawakale noma kube nesikalo thite ukuthi singakhona kunivulela emanti langaka nisebenzise kangaka kuba nesilinganiso. Uma ngabe mhlawumbe ke sekuthenini bawachumile lamanti ngalungekho emthethweni kulapho khona ke sebabese bawavala ke ngalokuphelele. Kepha ke uma uya ehlangothini ukuthi letingqinamba leti bakhona ukuthi kunebamfu labasimo lesithide njengoba ummeli ashito ukuthi bayakubuka yini lokho nababacima le manti. Uthi yena njengoba asebenzela iJohannesburg Water unake nje ekuthenini kukoloka kanjani imali kuphela. Lelo hlangothi lakancishe athi lingaba semahlombe elidolobha laseJozi njengoba emapolisi abo angawadi kahle ukuthi ahambe afike kuphi bayakhona yini kungenelela kuleso simo leso.
Thank you. Do you agree with me that access to clean water is a constitutional right in South Africa.
Yes, I do agree.
Do you agree with me that the city of Johannesburg, in cutting water supply for the residents of Usindiso, unfairly limited the rights of those residents, taking into account that, as we have listened to the evidence of the victims, that the building was previously used as a shelter for the previously disadvantaged and the persons that are suffering or have or victims of abuse, if I may say.
With regards to the fact that there was unavailability of water, yes, it can be agreed that the residents then were unfairly treated in that there was no water at the time. So that is I acknowledge, and that is something that as the city of Johannesburg we may look at in terms of possibly reviews of policies in how do we deal with that going forward to try and maybe have an alternative supply.
Uphindze wabuta lomunye umbuto ke ummeli kwekuthi ingabe make sikhosana uyadini kwekuthi kulungelo lebahlali kwekuthi batfole emanti lahlobile. Waveta make ukuthi yebo uyakwati lokho. Wase soyabuta ke futhi ummeli kwekuthi ingabe sisi uyakuconza yini kwekuthi njengoba bahlali base Usindiso bebangawatfoli emanti lahlobile. Futhi kubuka lokwekuthi kwacala phela kwahlala abantu labe bahlukubutekile lapha. Uyavuma yini ukuthi indlela bebaphatheke ngayo lokuthi bangawatfoli emanti akusindlela lekahle noma kuhlukubeteka kwemalungelo abo njengebahlali nenjengokusho kwemthetho futhi. Uyavuma ke mangasikhosana uthi yebo kuliciniso vele abaphathekanga kahle lokuthi bangawatfoli emanti lahlukile. Futhi ke uyasho ukuthi uyathemba ukuthi mhlawumbe lidolobha laseJozi kungaba yimvo leyibuketako ukuthi kuchubekela phambili benda njani ekuthenini bahlali bakhona ukutfola emanti lahlobile.
Be that you have considered that it was unfair to cut off water under those circumstances, why was means not being made in order to provide for this constitutional right to the residents of Usindiso?
Unfortunately, at the time of the disconnections, as the disconnecting department, we are not aware of who stays in the property and how many people are there, as that is not within the ambit of our responsibilities. And so our role is that of credit control. And so we wouldn't have been able to know that who is in the building and how many people are there, because our responsibility in terms of credit control is up to a meter that is outside of the building. And so as I have indicated, these may be the things that we may have to look at as the city then to make considerations probably in the future.
Uyabuta ke ummeli ukuthi njengoba make adi ukuthi vele labahlali abaphathekanga ngendlela efanele ngokuthi bavalelwe la emanti lahlobile. Yini ke imizamo labayenda kubuka simo salabantu labe bahlala kulela bhilidi lela ukuthi bakhone ukuthola emanti lahlobile. Uyaveta ke make ukuthi ngekwati kwakhe kude imizamo leyendiwa. Futhi ke lokho kungeza futhi kwekuthi bona njenga Johannesburg Water laba bamfula babona babantu lababuka ekuthenini ikolekwa kanjani imali lekweletwa sakhiwo ababuki ekuthenini kuhlala abantu laba kanjani labangisiphi isimo futhi kuhlala abantu labangaki bona njena bayesakhiweni bafike babuke imeter bathathe inombolo bese ke kuba lapho kubhadaleka khona. Kepha ke kuchubekela phambili mhlawumbe idolobha laseJozi lingabuka kwekuthi ingabe ngitiphi inyathelo vele letingatithatha ekuthenini ngaphambi kokuba kuvalwe emanti kubukwe isimo sebahlali.
Thank you for that. So, in an ordinary course of of things in Johannesburg, and I speak as a resident as well. Whenever there's a water cut or there's water outages, there's normally tanks and JoJo tanks that are put in place in order to afford residents of Johannesburg water. So why was that or those means made for the residents of Usindiso, taking into account that the Usindiso building was known to be owned by the city of Johannesburg?
Mr. Maponya, I think the witness has quite clearly said to her knowledge, she didn't know that the building was owned by the city of Johannesburg. You only knew the name of the ratepayer to be Usindiso Ministries. So I think your cross-examination is a little bit unfair.
Apologies for that, Chair. If I may rephrase my question, are you aware of those means that I alluded to in terms of your scope and mandate and your office, that whenever there's a water outage, water cut, there's normally means that are provided for to curb the lack thereof of water?
I am aware of the means to provide water tankers, but that is not done for credit control purposes. And so that is outside of the ambit of the credit control process. And so if you are referring to us taking credit control measures on any customer that is in areas, then those means I'm not aware of.
Ummeli-ke uyachubeka ubuta Make Sikhosana ukuthi njengoba kukhona tinsita letiyaye tilethwe uma ngabe kube nesigameko sekuthi emanti avalwe lekufaka ikhathi mhlawumbe emathanga abojojo uyakwati indoko uyasho ke Make Sikhosana ukuthi uyakwati kepha kubo njengebamvula babuke nje lelihlangothi lokukoleka kwetimali no kulabamvula basuke bamele babhadale emanti akusiyimvo labavame kuyenda ngoba nje bona bakoleka leto timali kuphela kepha uyakwati ukuthi yimvo leyayendiwe kepha bona akusimvo labayendako.
To what extent are you satisfied within the ambits of your office in terms of the procedural aspects of the termination of water supply at the Usindiso building?
In terms of following the procedures, as I indicated also in my testimony, that we are guided by the city's bylaws. And so according to the city's bylaws, we follow the process that we were supposed to, as that is the guiding document, and we act within the mandate of the city of Johannesburg, as well as the bylaws.
Umeli-ke uyaphindza futhi uyabuta ukuthi njengemnyango lapho khona bavala babuka ukuthi kukoleka kwetimali temanti kuhamba kanjani banelitseka kangakanani ngekwenda kwabo uyavela ke sisi ukuthi kwenda kwabo akusuke kwenda nje kepha kuchumeke emthethweni lekhona futhi nemithetho leminye lebekwe idolobha laseJozi so kwenda kwabo balandzela leyo mthetho leyo.
So earlier on, we were traversing the amount of money that was owed by the Usindiso Ministries. The amount, if you may confirm, is 4.3 million, right?
Yes, that is one.
So how did the amount reach that level if you are satisfied that the city of Johannesburg in collecting levies is on par, if you are indeed satisfied?
In clarifying that, when I'm saying satisfied, I was referring to our part as Johannesburg Water. I have indicated that the credit control process is a City of Johannesburg process, which starts there, and we just cover a certain aspect of it, which is effecting the disconnection on the ground. So with regards to the full credit control process that was followed, I would not be able to respond to it all because part of it I am not involved with it as Joburg Water.
Uyachubeka ke umeli uyabuta uthi nangabe make unelisekile ngekwenda kwabo kule mnyango la kawusebendelako iyafika kanjani iphona le mali ukuthi kwenteka kanjani ukuthi le mali ifike ku 4.9 million lesikweletu salamande uyachaza ke sisi ukuthi cishe kuhlukene kabili ingcenye yaloku koleka kwaleti imali ingcenye lebukwe lidolobha laseJozi nabo babuke ingcenye thiti so ngeke aze akhone kuphendvula ngalokugcwele ngoba bona ingcenye yakabo kwekuthi baye nje nasekumele ukuthi kuvalwe lenkhathi sekumele acinywe lawo mandi ukuthi angasabi khona kepha lolunye lihlangothi libukwa lidolobha laseJozi so kwekuthi benta kanjani ke akusimvo la kayatiko ngoba akasebenteli bona nje baye lesikhathi sekumele kucinywe lamandi noma kuvalwe lamandi.
Thank you for that. Do you agree with me that the termination thereof, even though I'm taking into account that you had stated that obviously your office did not deal with the actual, decision to cut the water supply, but do you agree with me that the termination of water supply in the Usindiso building led to the sanitary issues that were alluded to by the victims?
I will not be able to comment on that as I am not aware what would have led to the hygiene issues that you are referring to.
Well, I'm saying that, do you agree with me that the cutting of water supply, obviously there's no water in the building, that leads to sanitary issues and sanitary hazards in the Usindiso building?
Yes, generally, if there is no water, yes, that would lead to such challenges.
Uyachubeka ke ummeli uyambuta make ukuthi ingabe uyadi yini kwekuthi uma ngabe emanti lahlobile angekho njengalapha kule sakhiwo sase Usindiso ngiko lokwabangela kwekuthi bese kuba nekugula thite lokuba khona kubahlali balesa sakhiwo uyaveda ke make kwekuthi angeke aze akhone kusho alimise ngenhloko kwekuthi kunjalo ngeza futhi kwekuthi akade kahle kahle kwekuthi vele kwaba khona yini kugula lokuhambelana nekwekuthi kude emanti lahlobile kepha ke nje ngekwati kwakhe vele kuyendeka ukuthi nangabe umuntu angawatfoli emanti lahlobile bese uyagula.
So now I put it to you that for the lack of integration, that you didn't even know that the city of Johannesburg actually owned the building, that the lack thereof exacerbated and was contributory to what has transpired at the Usindiso building.
I'm not sure if you are making a statement or you're asking me a question, so if you can help clarify.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm saying that the lack of the city of Johannesburg within its departments in not integrating the system, in not having effective communication within the departments of the city of Johannesburg, that exacerbated and led to the misunderstandings and then the unknown how of what is going on within the city of Johannesburg, which led now to the travesty that we have seen at the Usindiso building.
Apologies, Madam Chair. Chair, we approach you because the proposition that is being put to the witness is not premised on accepted facts or evidence that has been led. For instance, a miscommunication between departments in the city of Johannesburg. The witness has not testified to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Maponya?
Thank you, Chair. So perhaps just to conclude and go back to the amount of money that was owed by the Usindiso ministries. How satisfied are you that this is the correct amount of money and how was it calculated, if you may clarify that?
We rely on the billing system that is being used to calculate the consumption and the charges that are claimed from every customer that we have in the system. And so from the detail that is used to be able to calculate and the record that we have of all the meter readings, for example, that we take from the ground, it gives us the confidence that what has been billed on the account, it is the correct amount.
Uyaqhubeka ke ummeli ubuta umbuto ocishe wekuvala wekuthi njengoba le mali lebekoloda kulesakhiwo ngu 4.3 million uqiniseke kangakanani manje sikhosana ukuthi vele ngiyo le mali le koloda kulesakhiwo yemanti uthi ke futhi unesiqiniseko futhi wati kanjani ukuthi ngiyo le mali le uyaveda ke manje sikhosana ukuthi lana kune system labayisebenzisako yekubala kwekuthi njengoba emanti asebente afika la kusho kwekuthi imali lengaka lekufuna ibhadalo leyo system leyo ke bayisebenzisa kuwo onke ema customer awo noma kubo bonke bamfu labasebenzisa labathatha emanti kubo so bayayethemba futhi bayati ukuthi iqinisekile so mayabahlanganisa ke leso nabahlanganisa le system yabo labayithembako kanye nema record labayaye bafike bawathathe lapha kule meter nabaya kusakhiwo ngesakhiwo bayakhona ukuthi bakuhlanganise kokubili bese kuphuma sombululo sekuthi lesakhiwo lesikweleta imali lengaka lokwenda kumnikete for loqina ukuthi vele lo 4.3 million ngiyona mali lekweleta ngilesa sakhiwo lesi.
Madam Chair, in terms of the confinements of our application, in terms of
Yes.
that is all I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Maponya.
Thank you.
Advocate Muloto.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We do not have questions for this.
Thank you. Mr. Myandu.
Madam Chair, we request that you kindly indulge us. There are some clarities we'd like to put to the
Yes,
witness
you may re-examine.
in re-examination. Ms. Kosana, good morning to you.
Good morning.
As I've said to Madam Chair and Madam Commissioner Mabena, there are some clarifications that I'd like to get from you. Much of what I will take you through is uncontested insofar as you've laid evidence arising from your statement as well. The first issue that I'd like to deal with is just to get clarification according to your knowledge and based on the evidence that you've given already. Does a person need to be a property owner in order to get an account with Joburg Water?
According to my knowledge, no, they do not necessarily have to be a property owner because some of the properties are listed. And so that is also allowable for somebody to have an account with the city of Johannesburg.
Ms. Zulu?
Okay. Kuchubeka ke lo munye ummeli uyabuta nje imibuto yokucacisa. Umbuto wecala kawubutako uthi ingabe kudzingeka ukuthi kube ngumuntu longumnikati loconzile wesakhiwo kuze kwekuthi lidolobha laseJozi limuphe iaccount. Uyaveta ke sisi uthi cha ke ngekwati kwakhe akusiko kanjalo ngasikhathi kuba khona bamfu labali rentako noma labalibolekile lelo building lelo noma leso sakhiwo leso nabo labamfu labo ke bayabaniketa ema accounts.
Thank you, Ms. Zuma. Thanks, Ms. Kosana. The next topic I'd like to clarify with you relates to what my learned friend, Mr. Maponya, referred to as the unfair treatment of the residents. And I'd just like to get clarity so that we are aware as to what can be referred to as being unfair. Your testimony gave evidence to the effect that all the steps that needed to be followed insofar as the disconnection was concerned were followed by Joburg Water. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So then the process followed insofar as it relates to the termination of the services of water in the building, that would have been in a fair manner. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, as the process was followed.
The repercussions arising from the disconnection of water may have been or may have resulted in a condition that is unfair.
That is correct.
I just wanted us to get that clarification. Thank you very much.
Uyachubeka ke ummeli uyabuta ukuthi ufuna ke phakucacisa ngomuntu wokucacisa ukuthi njengoba ummeli Mamponya bekathi kwaba khona kungaphatheki kahle kwebahlali base Usindiso. Ucela ukuthi ke naba babuke ekuthenini njengoba ngekwati kwakhe Miss Mamponya tinyathelo tonke tathathwa ngendlela lefanele ngaphambi kokuba lamanti ase Usindiso avalwe. Uyaphendvula ke make Sikhosana uthi yebo ngekwati kwakhe idolobha laseJozi latilandzela tonke tinyathelo ngendlela lefanele. So uyachubeka ke futhi ummeli uthi uyabuta ukuthi njengoba tinyathelo tathathwa ngendlela lefanele so kahle kahle lokwalandzela lokuthi kuvalwe lamanti ngeke sekubekwe njengenvo yokuthi kuhlukubeteka kepha yimvo lebeyifanele ukuthi yendeke njengoba tinyathelo talandzelwa njengemthetho. Uyaveta make Sikhosana uthi yebo kungaba yimvo le kanjalo. Ekugcineni kwakhona ke sothi ummeli lokusho ukuthi noma engayini ke manje leyavela ngemuva kokuba kuvaliwe lamanti akusho ukuthi labahlali kwavela ngokuthi labahlali bese bahlukubetekile. Uyaveta ke make Sikhosana uthi yebo kunjalo.
Thank you, Ms. Zungu. Ms. Kosana, kindly remind the Commission, once a level 1 disconnection has been attended to, what mechanisms do you have in place to realize that Joburg Water and the city at large is being cheated and that there has been an illegal connection?
As I indicated in my testimony that when a level 1 disconnection which restricts the water, the customer is still given an opportunity to come back to the city of Johannesburg and make a payment arrangement. And when that has not been done, it's either a payment arrangement or a full payment of the arrears amount. When that is not done, an investigation then is taken through from our investigations department to investigate whether there is still water or the water is still restricted as we would have done. If then we find that there is a usage of water, then that is considered to be an illegal use of water, which we call it an illegal connection, because the water would not have been formally reconnected by the city of Johannesburg officials, who are the only ones who are authorized to do that.
Ummeli ke uyachubeka uyabuta ucela make acacisele iCommission ukuthi kwendeka kanjani uma ngabe basese ku level 1 ukuthi kucishelwe bahlali eManti. Uyaveta ke make uthiko uma ku level 1 baye banikete loyo mhlali labo bahlali labo noma loyo mnikati welibhilidi isikhathi noma ithuba lokuthi ete edolobheni laseJozi ato wekhatinhle ato veta lihlelo la kangalisebenzisa ekuthenini angabhadala kanjani kancane kancane aze asiqede isikweletu sakhe noma afike abhadale yonke imali la ikweletayo. Kepha nangabe kude lokwendekako akaveli ukuthi osho ukuthi ucela ukuthi abhadale ngalendlela lena noma abhadale yonke imali. Bayaye bese ke bona bayahamba mina licwaningo bona njenga Johannesburg Water usho ukuthi banelitiko labacwaningi bakhipha ke bacwaningi ukuthi baye bayocwaninga kulesa sakhiwo lesa ukuthi ingabe emanti asachubeka yini nekusetshenziswa futhi asetshenziswa kanjani ngalendlela labayendile bona noma laba sebatfole indlela yokuthi batichumele ngalokho ngekho emthethweni. Kuyaye bese kubangilapho ke sokhanza ukuthi sebayabavala lamanti ngalokugcwele.
Thank you, Ms. Zungu. Ms. Kosana, finally, and as a follow-up to what you've just testified about now, if a customer is a proposition, then, so if a customer is disconnected, their account for water services is suspended, and they are disconnected owing 10,000 rand. And pursuant to an investigation, the meter is seen to have been accumulating or releasing more water. That 10,000 rand amount will then increase. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, because every liter of water that is used, it needs to be paid for. And so further billing happens on that account to provide or to process the charges for the additional usage of water. Whether it occurred legally or illegally, it is still being charged.
Uyachubeka ke ummeli umbuto kepha lo sasibonelo uthi ngasikhathi nangabe umnikati wesakhiwo kuvela kwekuthi ukweleta imali cishe ngaba 10,000 rand. Kepha nabayobuka lapha kuleya meter mhlambe bamvalele imandi njengoba kweleta le mali. Kepha ngekuhamba kwesikhathi nabahamba bayobuka lapha iyakhona yini le meter kukhombisa kwekuthi emandi achunyiwe mhlambe ngalokho semthethweni noma ngalokho ngekho emthethweni. Uyaveta ke manje uthi yebo njengoba ilitha yemandi ine i-charger bayakhona ukuthi le meter ichubeke ivete ukuthi emandi ayasetshenziswa noma ngabe achunywa ngalokho semthethweni noma ngalokho ngekho emthethweni. Iya-charge imeter futhi njengoba ilitha inesikalelo sokuthi uma usebenzisa imali langangelitha imali lengaka bayakhona ukuthi leso sikolete leso sichubeke sakhele tikwalo 10,000 wemarandi.
Thank you, Ms. Kosana. Madam Chair, we have no further questions for the witness.
Thank you, Mr. Mnyandu. Ms. Kosana, thank you very much for coming to give evidence before this commission. You are excused as a witness. Thank you. I think this will be, Mr. Maponya, this will be an appropriate time to adjourn for tea and reconvene at 11:20.